She was the kind of woman every Nigerian mother prayed for. Calm, prayerful, respectful. But on her wedding night, in a quiet hotel room in Victoria Island, she untied her wrapper, looked her husband in the eye, and whispered, "I didn't marry you because I love you. I married you to finish what your mother started." In a busy city called Lagos, there lived a young man named Daniel. He was kind and polite and worked very hard in his office. Everyone who knew Daniel liked him. His neighbors smiled when they saw him. His friends always wanted to spend time with him. But most of all, his mother loved him deeply. Every night, Daniel's mother would pray. "Dear God," she would say, "please help Daniel find a good wife. A wife who is kind, gentle, and full of love. A wife who will bring peace into his life." And then one day, Daniel met someone special. Her name was Amaka. From the first time he saw her, Amaka looked like the kind of girl every mother would love. She wore simple clothes, always spoke with a quiet voice, and had a calm smile. When she visited Daniel's house, she greeted his mother by kneeling and using 2 hands, just like a respectful daughter would. After just 1 week, Amaka had already made Daniel's mother so happy. She cooked a delicious pot of soup called ifo riro that made his mother close her eyes with joy. "Daniel," his mother said as she licked her spoon, "this girl is not just wife material. She is wife fabric. God truly sent her to you." Amaka never shouted. She never complained. She always smiled and said kind things. She cooked meals on time, helped around the house, and prayed every morning and night. She called Daniel's mother Mummy from the first visit, and not in a fake way. It sounded like she truly meant it. "She's different," Daniel told his friends. And it was true. But sometimes, just sometimes, Daniel noticed things that made him wonder. One day, he asked Amaka, "Where's your family?" She smiled and said softly, "They're not around anymore." He asked her if she had any brothers or sisters. "No," she replied, "just me." He asked about her childhood, her school, and her old friends. She always found a way to change the topic. "Let's talk about our future instead," she would say. Daniel didn't push. He thought maybe she had some sad memories and didn't want to talk about them. Still, sometimes he felt like there was something hidden, something she didn't want him to know. But he told himself not to worry. After all, she made him feel safe and peaceful. And what more could a man want? As the weeks passed, Daniel and Amaka spent more time together. They took walks in the park, talked about their dreams, and planned their future. Amaka was always gentle and kind. She smiled when Daniel made jokes and listened quietly when he spoke. Daniel's friends were surprised. "She never gets upset," one friend asked. "Not even once," Daniel said. "Does she check your phone or ask too many questions?" "Never." "Are you sure she's real?" They laughed. Daniel just smiled. "She's not like other girls. She's peaceful. Like water." And truly, Amaka was calm. Even when Daniel came home late, she never complained. Instead, he would find warm food waiting and soft music playing. She sang songs of worship in a quiet voice that made the whole house feel calm. One night, he opened the door and smelled a Ngozi soup. Fufu was already on the table. A small candle was glowing in the corner. Amaka was in the kitchen, singing and stirring the pot. Daniel stood there and whispered, "God, did I really find someone this perfect?" His mother was proud. "This girl is a treasure," she said. "I hope you marry her soon." So Daniel began to plan the wedding. But still, some things about Amaka didn't quite make sense. Once, his younger sister asked playfully, "Auntie Amaka, can we see your baby pictures?" Amaka smiled but didn't answer. She stood up and walked away like she didn't hear. Later that night, Daniel's sister saw Amaka sitting alone in the living room. She was holding a small photo in her hand. The photo looked old and burnt on one side. There was only one person clearly seen in it, a little girl standing in front of a small bush house. The next day, the photo was gone. Daniel didn't ask about it. He didn't want to make her sad. But deep in his heart, he felt something strange. He also noticed how sometimes, when Amaka prayed at night in her own language, the words sounded heavy, not like normal prayers. And sometimes, when she thought he was asleep, he heard her whisper things like, Everything they took, I will get it back, even if I have to smile forever. Daniel didn't understand what she meant, but he told himself, she's just very spiritual. That's all. He didn't know the truth yet, but soon he would. As the wedding day came closer, Daniel started thinking more about Amaka's past. He didn't want to be rude, but he felt it was important to know more about the woman he was going to marry. One morning, while they were having breakfast, he asked gently, "Amaka, can I visit your village? I'd love to meet your family before the wedding." Amaka looked up from her plate and smiled softly. "That's sweet, Daniel. But the road to the village is very bad now. Floods have damaged it." Daniel nodded, but deep inside he felt disappointed. A week later, he tried again. "Maybe we can try going next month?" he asked. "There's a curfew in the village now," she said quickly. "It's not safe." After hearing 3 different excuses, Daniel began to wonder. Was she hiding something? Then he remembered something. Long ago, she had written her family's address on a piece of paper and left it in one of his books. He found it, packed his bag, and drove to Nsukka without telling anyone, not even Amaka. The road was long, but he didn't turn back. When he reached the village, it was quiet and full of green trees. He asked a woman for the Nsukka family's house. The woman stopped and stared at him. "Nsukka," she said. "That family's house burned down many years ago. The whole family died in the fire. Only one child survived, but she ran away. No one ever saw her again." Daniel's heart started beating fast. He laughed nervously. "Oh, I'm looking for someone named Amaka Nsukka. I think her family used to live around here." The woman's eyes grew wide. "That was the name. Amaka. You're looking for a ghost, my son." Daniel's legs felt weak. He said thank you and slowly followed the path the woman pointed to. And there it was. A small house hidden by weeds. The roof had fallen in. The walls were black from smoke. The windows were empty. It looked like no one had lived there in many, many years. No voices. No animals. Just stillness. Daniel stood there, staring. He felt something in the air. Something cold. Like someone was watching. He turned and walked back to his car. He didn't ask more questions. He didn't call anyone. When he got back to Lagos, Amaka was at home, cooking okra soup and singing softly. She smiled when she saw him. "You're home early," she said. Daniel nodded. "Yeah, just wanted to rest." He didn't say where he went. He didn't ask about the burnt house. And she didn't ask where he had been. Everything seemed normal. But it didn't feel normal anymore. 2 days before the wedding, Amaka smiled and told Daniel, "My cousin Ngozi is coming to stay in Lagos. She helped raise me when I was little." Daniel was surprised. He had never met any of Amaka's family before. This was the first time she had ever spoken about someone from her past. "She's the only person I trust," Amaka said softly. "She was there when things were hard. I want her to be at our wedding." Daniel nodded. "Of course. I'll pay for her to stay in a nice hotel." Later that day, Ngozi arrived. She was quiet and polite, just like Amaka. She looked a little older and her eyes looked tired, like someone who had lived through many things. When she saw Daniel, she smiled kindly and said, "Thank you for taking care of Amaka." He smiled back. "It's an honor. She's special." That evening, they had dinner together. Amaka served jollof rice and grilled fish. Daniel noticed that Ngozi didn't eat much. She just pushed her food gently and glanced at Amaka from time to time. At one point, Ngozi looked like she wanted to say something, but she stopped herself. Amaka simply smiled and said, "Ngozi doesn't like talking too much. She's shy." Later, Daniel drove Ngozi to the hotel. She thanked him and said, "You seem like a good man. I pray everything goes well." Then she went inside. The next morning, Daniel got a phone call. It was from the hotel manager. "Sir, something has happened," the man said. Daniel rushed over. Ngozi was gone. Her phone was still on the bed. Her slippers were beside the wardrobe. Her wrapper was neatly folded on the chair. But she herself vanished. "She just walked out early in the morning," the hotel manager said. "We saw her on the security camera. No bag, no phone. Just left." Daniel's chest tightened. He called Amaka immediately. Amaka, Ngozi is missing. There was a pause on the line. Then Amaka's calm voice replied, Ngozi always runs away from serious things. She never learned how to stay. Daniel was stunned. But the bride price list, she was bringing it. I have another copy, Amaka said gently. Don't worry, love. Everything will be fine. Then she ended the call. No tears. No fear. No questions. Daniel stood in the hotel room, staring at the folded wrapper on the chair. The air felt too quiet, too cold. He whispered, Where did you go, Ngozi? He didn't understand what was happening, but he felt something deep inside him. Something that had been growing ever since he saw the burnt house. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in bed. His thoughts were heavy. He kept hearing the hotel manager's words in his mind. She just walked out. No phone. No bag. Finally, around 2 a.m., he got up to get a drink of water. But when he entered the dining room, he stopped. Amaka was sitting at the table, wearing a plain white wrapper. A small candle flickered beside her. Her head was bowed. In her hand was a small folded paper. She didn't notice him right away. Baby, he said quietly. She looked up slowly. Her face was calm. Too calm. Oh, you're awake, she said, as if nothing was strange. Daniel's eyes went to the paper. What are you reading? He asked. She folded it gently and smiled. Just some prayer points for our wedding. You know I like to prepare spiritually. She stood up and walked to him. She kissed him softly on the cheek and whispered, Ngozi will come back. She just wasn't meant to be part of the beginning. Then she walked back to the bedroom. Daniel stood there, staring at the empty chair where she had been sitting. And for the first time since he met her, a quiet fear settled inside him. Not loud, just cold. After that night, things didn't feel the same for Daniel. During the day, everything looked normal. Amaka cooked, cleaned, smiled, and prayed like she always did. She spoke gently and helped prepare for the wedding. From the outside, she seemed like the perfect bride. But Daniel felt like something had changed inside the house. Or maybe something had changed inside him. He started waking up in the middle of the night, unsure why. Sometimes it was a strange sound. Sometimes it was just silence, too quiet to feel safe. One night, Daniel opened his eyes at 3 a.m. Amaka was standing by the window. She wasn't moving. Her white wrapper fell softly around her feet, and her hands were together as if she was praying. But the words she was whispering didn't sound like any prayer Daniel had heard before. It wasn't English. It wasn't Igbo. It was something older, slower. The sounds were thick and heavy, like a language that hadn't been spoken in a very long time. Daniel sat up, heart beating fast. Amaka, he said. She turned slowly. She didn't look surprised. She smiled a little. You're awake. What are you saying? He asked. Prayers, she said quietly. For our future. She walked back to the bed and lay beside him like nothing strange had happened. But Daniel couldn't sleep anymore. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything. Ngozi disappearing, the burnt house, the old photo, the whispering in the night. And Amaka, calm through it all. He wanted to tell someone. But who would believe him? She's kind, they would say. She cooks well. She prays. She's perfect. But Daniel knew, perfect things don't hide that much. The next day, the traditional wedding was held in Ibadan. There was food, music, dancing, and lots of smiling faces. Amaka moved gracefully through the crowd, dressed beautifully, greeting people, smiling for pictures. But Daniel felt cold inside. He didn't dance much. He didn't laugh like the others. He kept looking at Amaka, trying to read her face. She smiled at everyone. But Daniel was no longer sure what her smile meant. That night, after the ceremony, Daniel had a dream. He saw a small girl tied to a post, crying quietly. A woman nearby was shouting and crying loudly. And then in the corner of the dream, he saw young Amaka. She wasn't crying. She was just watching, standing still, with a soft smile on her face. Not a happy smile. A quiet one. Like someone who had waited a long, long time for something. Daniel woke up in a cold sweat. He turned and saw Amaka beside him, whispering again in that heavy old language. This time, the sound felt like it wasn't meant for him. He sat up slowly. "Amaka, what are you saying?" She opened her eyes and smiled at him. "Just prayers. For us." She closed her eyes again and continued whispering. Daniel sat there frozen. The peace he once felt had turned into something else. He didn't know what it was called, but it felt like standing at the edge of something very old and very deep. The big day finally arrived. It was time for Daniel and Amaka's white wedding. The church was bright and full of colorful decorations. Flowers lined the aisles. Aunties wore shiny clothes and big hats. Uncles wore fine agbatas and joked with each other in low voices. The choir had just finished singing a beautiful hymn. Now, everyone sat quietly, waiting for the special moment. Daniel stood at the front of the church in his fine suit. His heart was beating fast. His hands were sweaty, and he wiped them quietly behind his back, hoping no one noticed. He smiled when he saw Amaka walking down the aisle. She looked beautiful, like a princess from a peaceful storybook. Her white dress flowed softly, and her calm smile never wavered. She didn't look nervous at all. She looked ready. When she reached him, Daniel took her hand. It was warm but very still, like she wasn't even shaking. The priest smiled and said, "You may now say your vows." Daniel took a deep breath. He looked into Amaka's calm eyes and began. "Amaka, I thank God for you. You have brought peace and joy into my life. Today, I promise to stand by your side, to protect you, to love you, and to build a beautiful future with you." The people in the church clapped softly. Some wiped tears from their eyes. It was a sweet, simple vow. Then it was Amaka's turn. She stepped forward, still holding Daniel's hand. She paused for a moment, looking at him carefully. And then, in a voice soft and steady, she said, "Daniel, I promise to walk with you, even when the path is hidden, to speak when your voice is lost, to carry your name with honor. And if the past ever calls out to us, I will be the one to answer." The church became very, very quiet. What she said didn't sound wrong, but something about her voice and the way she spoke. It was slow, careful, like she wasn't just talking to Daniel. It felt like she was talking to someone or something else too. Even the priest blinked and cleared his throat nervously before saying, "Now you may exchange rings." Daniel picked up the ring and slid it onto Amaka's finger. His hand shook a little, but he smiled for the crowd. Then Amaka picked up Daniel's ring. She held his hand gently. She didn't rush. She looked into his eyes for a long moment. Then, as she placed the ring on his finger, she leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Now they will know I'm yours." Daniel smiled for the crowd, but inside his chest felt tight, like he had just swallowed a heavy stone. In the crowd, Uncle Femi, one of Daniel's wise uncles, leaned over to his wife and whispered, "That girl, she speaks like someone who didn't come empty." His wife frowned. "What do you mean?" Uncle Femi just shook his head and kept watching Amaka carefully. When the ceremony ended, everyone clapped and cheered. They posed for pictures. They cut the cake. They danced. From the outside, it was a perfect wedding. But Daniel felt something strange inside him. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't fear either. It was something he didn't have a name for. Something that whispered, "This is just the beginning." After the big wedding celebration, Daniel and Amaka went to a beautiful hotel in Victoria Island. The lights of Lagos twinkled below like stars, and the air was filled with the sounds of the busy city far away. Their hotel room was perfect, soft lights, sweet smells, and a big, cozy bed. Everything looked like a dream come true. Amaka stepped out of the bathroom wearing a plain white wrapper. No jewelry, no makeup. She looked peaceful and calm, just like always. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, smiling weakly. He was tired, but he was happy too. Or at least he wanted to be. Amaka sat beside him. She held his hand. Her touch was soft. But her eyes were serious now. She looked at him carefully and said in a very quiet voice, "Daniel, do you remember how your father died?" Daniel frowned. "Yes. He died in a car accident when I was little." Amaka shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "That's what they told you. But that's not the truth. Daniel stared at her, confused. She continued speaking, her voice steady, like she had been waiting to say these words for a long, long time. Long ago, your family and my family were like brothers. We lived next to each other in the village. Our fathers were close.